Hello and thanks for joining the Tuesday edition of Journalist Hangout. I am Veronica Dani-Boy. Let's remind you that it is 59 days to the conduct of Nigeria's 2019 general election. So how ready are you for the polls? Today on the program, 14 killed, 21 injured as gunmen attack Kaduna village. Security agents shut down National Assembly complex over strike by legislative staff. And later on the show, ASUP meetings with federal government end in deadlock as NUC shut down 58 illegal universities. I will be hanging out with Asukwa James, Sholao Jeusi and Waid Bakari. Gentlemen, thanks for coming to the program.
Thanks for having us.
Journalist Hangout starts now. The recent outcry of Governor of Kaduna State, Malam Nasir El-Rufai, against hate speech appears to not be making the needed impact. Rather than thawing the frosty ethno-religious mistrust in the state, what we witnessed is another violence. On Sunday night, gunmen attacked Ngwampangwandara in the Jema'a local government area of the state, killing 13 persons and injuring 21 others. Still crying loud against the senseless killings, Governor El-Rufai condemned the attack, saying criminal elements must not be allowed to divide the people and wantonly take lives. How far can preaching go in solving this crisis? Shola, Kaduna has, been embroiled one time too many, and the governor has always come out to, condemn these killings, but then that's not enough.
I think it's sad, we are approaching Christmas, and this should be the season of love, when people should be preaching life or exuding things that will promote life. But here we have some people, the only response to the season of love and life is to meet death to people like death merchants. But Kaduna is becoming a real problem. And I think the earlier whoever is in charge realizes that
there is a governor, so it's not about whoever is in charge.
Well, well, maybe it's getting out of hands. It's like the governor himself is not able to handle this. Kaduna is being handled with kid gloves. I think it's about time somebody really did something drastic about that place. We grew up, I remember a time when, what was the name of the torch-bearing musician? When there was a crisis, Zaki asked to sing a song, Woyo Kaduna. It's when it becomes a recurring decima, and every day we should be. Kaduna used to be the city of love, where you have a lot of people, like a kind of melting pot of people from different ethnic backgrounds. Remember, Kaduna was the hub of northern Nigeria. That's where we had the great Zadauna, who brought a lot of people together, from different ethnic groups. We have the Sunday Aoniyi from the south of the northern region then, who was like one of the biggest people in the government. So it was a government, a institution where you have so many people from different ethnic nationalities from the north coming together in Kaduna as a hub. In those days, there was nothing like people killing. People used to be together to love.
So what happened?
But somewhere along the line, I think the disconnect can also be linked to the kind of political practices we have in Nigeria. The politicians have done enough to put a knife to what has brought the people together. Apology to Chino Achebe. We have to do something drastic about this. The ethnic division was not there in those days. What brought it here? It is because people are taking advantage of all those fault lines to be able to advance their own political interest. But people are dying. We're talking of 14 people now.
Yeah, or more.
In October, I think Kasuwa Magani, in fact, it's ironic because when you say Kasuwa Magani, what it means in Hausa is the maybe medicine market, where you go to buy medicine or something for you to live. Yeah. But here, people, almost about, I think 55 people were killed there. There's another place, Sanga, local government, another 38. Now we're talking of 14. How long are we continuing to do? So I think there has to be a national approach to this thing. Kaduna is becoming Unless we want to talk Kaduna again to another northeast, and then we begin to look at creating Kaduna Development Commission. But I think we have to be very, very drastic about this.
All right, let's bring Waheed in now. Stemming from what Shola has said, that this situation is being handled with kids' gloves. Is that what is really happening, or is the government being overwhelmed suddenly?
I think it's about the inability of the government, to muster the political will to deal with the situation. We have people that went for a wedding event. We all know what it is when people attend wedding ceremony. There'll be no food to drink, to eat, plenty to drink. And when the event was rounding off, some men from nowhere, about 10, just came and started shooting people. I've never seen such a callous thing in my life. A wedding. And most of the people that were killed were eventually children and women. They never prepare for their death. They just met it like that, just because they went for a wedding ceremony. And if you look at it, it has become a recurring thing, especially in Kaduna. But the question you need to ask is, what has happened to those that have been arrested in the past? A lot of people have been arrested. When people were killed on October 18, 55 people, I think about 65 of them were arrested. Before then, precisely on February 10, about 10 people were also killed in the same area, and 22 suspects were arrested. What is happening to those that were arrested?
According to reports, they were charged to court and they were released eventually.
Of course.
No, justice wasn't meted out.
When you have a situation like that, people will be emboldened to do more, because they know that there will be no consequences for whatever they did. As a result of that, they are willing to kill more people. They know that when they kill, and they are arrested, they will find a way around it and release those people. Maybe those they are working for, they are the ones that will eventually get them released. There's not that political courage to say, let's go out. You also recall that the last one that happened, the president did visit Kaduna, and he said that this time around, we are going to make sure that the perpetrators are brought to book. How far have we done that? People like precedents. When there is a precedent that it had happened in the past, nothing was done to the killers. Of course they'll be emboldened. They will want to kill more because they know they are almost certain that they will get away with it. And that is what has been happening over the years. Kaduna all the time. If you look at the issues, they are always related. Perhaps issue over land dispute in most cases. It is later that those issues will now, assume ethnic and religious dimension. In most cases, it's always about some people are settlers, some people are indigenes. In a country that belongs to all of us, for how long are you going to be doing that, for crying out loud?
Asuko, injustice has been mentioned here as part of the reasons why the crisis in Kaduna seem to be escalating or becoming a recurring decima. Is that what it is for you?
Well, it's true. It's because the thing is nobody is being prosecuted when these things happen. When people are being killed, the next thing we just start counting numbers, how many people have died, and then after that it becomes headline, and then the government brings out its normal rhetoric. We are going to do something about it, and then people will be arrested. Every time, the government is always not proactive when it comes to matters like this. Nobody prays that things like this should happen. But at least if you have measures in place, you should be able to tackle such situation when it arises. Like what happened, from the information I gathered, it was just a normal wedding, and from stuff like this have never happened for a very long time. In fact, they said after the wedding, they were busy, the residents there were enjoying themselves because they have enjoyed relative peace for a very long time. So it is not ethnic, it doesn't have ethnic coloration in any way, but it is just some people who just love to drink blood. And that is what I see, and that is what they are telling me, that this is not, it doesn't relate to ethnicity or whatever. It is just pure criminal people who are criminals that just want to see that some people are not happy. And just like we said here, it's just some few days, if not just a week, to Christmas. And these are people who believe that, okay, rather than, sharing love, because I know we churn out stories from Kaduna where Christians and Muslims come together during Christmas as well as during Salah, share food together, sit down together, and then they celebrate this feast, So these are people, criminal elements, who don't want to see other people happy. And then the government, that is where the government also, they don't need to fold their arms. They must also make sure that those people are not happy by taking care of them. And you know what I mean?
Let the viewers know what you mean.
You understand? So the government has to also take care of them. If they don't want other people to be happy at this period, the government has to also take care of them. The government should not be reactionary. Every time we bring out those responses, we want people to be dealt with. So many people must be persecuted so that it becomes something that is bad for people to do. Because by the time you kill 10 today, just like you are saying in Sanga, like 38 people were killed. No, but we didn't even hear about that one. It was just an online media that just reported it. The mainstream media didn't even report it. 38 people were killed. And this is just, prominent because the governor actually went there and he condemned the act. And don't forget, the governor has also already condemned some other, killings in the past.
Words of mouth.
And so what we are looking at now is for government to be proactive. And also for us to also look, was there any police station around there when this thing happened? And how far is the police station to this particular place?
Place where it happened.
Kaduna is a very volatile area. By now, the IGP should be thinking of increasing the number of personnel to Kaduna.
Well, troops have been deployed.
That is what you are saying, reactionary. It is medicine after death. So it is something that they know that, okay, this area, especially the southern Kaduna area, at this period, because it is the southern Kaduna area that will be celebrating in the next couple of weeks. And then, thank God, the IGP said they are going to deploy more policemen to major areas at this period. So that is where he needs to also step up the game by deploying more people, especially in that southern Kaduna, because we don't want to hear a situation where people were killed, particularly now that everybody wants to celebrate peacefully, even though there is no money in the pockets for many people, So let's at least celebrate Christmas peacefully and in love and happiness in Nigeria.
We've been speaking about injustice, Waid. You also talked about it, and you know how people who feel they are hard done by because they did not get injustice might also want to react. Do you see that happening in this case?
Well, people will always resort to self-help if help is not coming from the right quarters. It's a natural thing, because there is no point if some elements invaded a particular community and killed people, and governments appear helpless. People they won't wait, they will be stupid, to fold their arms and wait for another set of people to invade their village and kill their people. As far as government is concerned, we can easily predict what government will do. It's a normal thing. We are all aware of what they can do. They will release a statement, they will condemn the heart, we'll foot the bill of those who are in hospital, and everybody goes on, we fold our hands until when another circle of violence will happen. And we keep repeating the same thing all over. So whenever you have a situation like that, people will resort to self-help. I think the solution lies with the people. We should learn to tolerate one another. Exactly. Ours is an heterogeneous society with a lot of differences. In fact, it's those differences that makes us to be an heterogeneous society. Because of the differences. Once we know that, as a Yoruba man, I know that if I say certain things, it will not go now well with a particular, with an Igbo man. Why do I have to say it? We should learn to live together in peace and harmony. Every Nigerian has the right to reside in any part of the country. You can't say this issue of some people are settlers, it has been there for a very long time, and government is not doing anything about it. you know, hate speech, we all knew what hate speech did in a place like Rwanda. Yeah, we refuse to learn.
Exactly.
We are not learning anything. It's sad.
It's really sad, Shola. What would be a proactive step to be taken? Because as Ukwo mentioned, we always keep reacting, same as Waid.
I think there is a lot of tactical blunder involved because he said when the event happens, another crisis comes, all the greetings, the statement, you know, white paper releases and all those things, and then the circle, the vicious circle of killings continues. That means, you know...
If you could just hold the thought. We have Joseph on the line calling from Oyo State. Welcome, Joseph. Go ahead with your contribution.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm listening out that the GDC is going for holidays. Okay, we are missing him.
All right.
Please, I just want to find out something. Yesterday, I was discussing about the rice importation and the local rice. Today, I've been in the Bodija market going around to look for the local rice I want to buy. I could not find. So I don't know where I will locate the local rice to buy. So if they are stopping importation... All
right, Joseph, that's not what we are talking about this evening, but perhaps you might want to call in later after the show to find out any details you want to get. Thank you. All right,
so I was saying that, you know, we can't continue like this. You mentioned earlier when you were doing your intro, we are about 55 days to election.
Yes.
We may just think it's one of those things. But you know, all this little fracas coming from different can be, by the time they accumulate, I hope we'll be able to do the election we're looking forward to. And it's as if the powers that be are looking, we mentioned kid glow, it's even worse. It's too infantile, the way we respond to things like this. The governor has to really wake up and get the president to know that Kaduna is getting out of hands. Yeah, we can blame the people who are killing. You know, I can't imagine somebody with such a warped mind, like going to a wedding and then kill people at that. But then, it boils down to, you know, there will always be criminals in a society. We talk of some sane societies. There may even be worse criminals in America than we have in Nigeria. But you know what? There is always action to prevent an action. Okay. It's not a question of just reacting to things. We have to reassess our, what do you call, security machine in Nigeria. It's like everybody's attention is now on election. We don't know that while we are planning that election, you're sending policemen to go and protect politicians, but there are people who can scuttle that election if we're not careful. So why not find a way of making sure there is adequate security in such areas that are known to be volatile? Because when something becomes a recurring decimal, there is somebody who has not done his job somewhere. Because it's clear, you know, I mean, whether we're always hearing of Kaduna crisis, sometimes to be Zamfara, the Northeast, those are areas you see as flashpoints. Yeah. What have you been able to do? How have you been able to harness all the forces we have in the armed forces, the police, to come together and see how this thing can at least be forestalled? You can't eliminate violence totally, but you can do it to a level that people will at least know you have tried. But what can we call, can we say they have a pass mark? It's nothing they've achieved, because the more this thing reoccurs, the more we begin to see the backside of our security system in Nigeria.
All right, perhaps Asuko might want to lend a voice to what could be a more proactive step. Can traditional rulers be a part of this?
Exactly. I think the traditional rulers can be incorporated into the, I don't know if they now have an intelligence, units, so that the traditional rulers are the ones that will be able to talk to the youths and then work closely with the police. Because we don't want a situation whereby the governor will wake up and say he wants to create another, what is it called, neighborhood watch or whatever. No, he can work with the traditional rulers as well as the youth around, and so that religious leaders, especially religious leaders, because right now, what I notice is that our religious leaders are the ones that are even fanning the embers of discord, you know, with their utterances on the pulpit. They can't reduce whatever they are saying and talk about salvation and leave politics for those who are doing politics.
Okay.
You know, for now.
Right.
After the election, they can go back and talk politics, but
Quickly,
not now.
Wade, your final words on this.
Well, I'm on the same page with him. You know.
All right. Okay, let's move forward now. The hallowed chambers is how legislature is described in deference to the sacred duties entrusted into that arm of government. However, since return to democracy in Nigeria in 1999, the National Assembly has witnessed countless desecrations in form of unending scandals, exchange of blows, tearing of clothes, throwing of tables and chairs, and even hijack of the mace, the symbol of its authority. Now the legislature faces even bigger dishonor as the strike by Parliamentary Staff Association of Nigeria over unpaid allowances paralyzed activities at both chambers of the National Assembly. But fearing that the workers' action may threaten plenary and the 2019 budget presentation by President Muhammadu Buhari, the lawmakers directed security agencies to secure the complex for sitting. Now, that directive was complied with as security operatives took over the entrance, preventing the workers from gaining access to the complex. Looking at what we have read out, Shola, what really do you make of this situation going on at the National Assembly? Is this the use of force?
Well, I think the politicians in the National Assembly were so busy with their bickering, with the scandals, that they forgot that the work of the National Assembly has a backbone. And the backbone are the civil servants working there. You know, every Libra deserves to be paid because, we're talking of recession. You have your family to feed. You have your own bare necessities to attend to. And then when it gets to a level where you can't get paid for what you have worked for, anybody will get angry. Especially in a National Assembly where a lot of figures have been put up every day. Some people earning millions of millions monthly. And these poor workers of the assembly who make things work, if you know the way the National Assembly operates, even mere plenary, whatever, they need paperwork, they need the support staff to be able to keep things going on. So the major work is being done by those people underneath. And then if you want this thing to continue, I don't know what the leaders have been thinking about. If you have had an agreement, there are certain statutory things that you have to do as leaders of the National Assembly that will not harm I use the word backbone, the machine that keeps the assembly moving. And then we're talking of preparing a budget that affects the entirety of the nation. I think these people don't know the kind of thing, it's like they are, like our Yoruba people will say, you are carrying the carcass of an elephant on your head, and you are busy disturbing the ground, looking for crickets. They have a huge responsibility on their heads, but personal interest, pecuniary things have taken away that feeling of responsibility away from the people. Because if you don't keep the machine working, then the vehicle cannot move. So if the people are supposed to be, treated well according to what the laws have said, if you work, you get your pay. If you have certain entitlements, you should be given. So nobody is going to keep silent when you know that a senator earns millions and he collects it. I'm sure if they have not been paid their salaries, nothing will be moving in the National Assembly. So if the senators or whoever, the reps and all those are being taken care of, what of the people who keep that assembly going on? So there is a lot to be done. But I don't know, the National Assembly, the chairman, we have the Senate and the House, they have to come together and see how they're going to do so. Because already now, the fate of the nation is being put on their head, because whatever happens with the budget, if something fails, they will say it is Sharaki or Dogara. That's called. So I think they have to wake up to that. That's the point.
All right. Some are of the opinion, Wai, that a dialogue should have ensued instead of asking that security operatives come and take over the complex.
I think they are just postponing the evil day. It won't really solve any problem. You know, the problem will still be there waiting for them. You know, and I don't think that place will be habitable enough for them to sit in the chamber and listen to Mr. President, because to the best of my knowledge, I think they have disconnected electricity
and water.
They made it clear that we are not saying people should not come into the complex, but we can make life difficult for you by cutting off water supply. You know, when you cut off the water supply, it means that when people make use of the restroom, there won't be water to flush. The whole place becomes stinking after a while. You know, you can't stay there any longer. You know, what are the things that they are even asking for? They are not asking for arms and legs. They are asking for their legitimate right. In 2010, you know, this consolidated legislative salary structure was approved. And between 2010 and 2018, we are talking of 8 years. Up till now, it has not been implemented. It has never appeared in the budget until of recent. Are you not saying that all this while they should forego accumulation of their arrears? When before they are very high, they know how much
is going out.
My member of the National Assembly take home every month. Your own, nothing is affecting your own allowance. Then those who are doing those who are making the place to be comfortable for you, you are not you care less about their own welfare. You can't do that and get away with it. All this idea of, you know, shutting down they have succeeded, but let's see how it will go. You know, like I said, it's like the problem will still be waiting for them anytime they come, unless they resolve it. You know, you don't have to use force. You have to call them to a round table. And you know, one of the hallmarks of an ideal man is that when you make a promise, you have to keep it. You don't just make promise for making sake. Anybody can make promise, but how well are you going to keep your promise? That's what defines you as an ideal person. And this is what the people are asking for. You know, people who are due for promotion, the promotion was approved. And they said somebody has been sitting on their letter. And the next thing they knew was that the work that those that have been promoted ought to be doing are sourced. You know, they have been given to contractor. And we all know what it is when work are being given to contractor in Nigeria. You know, a lot of things will go underground. And they are aware, they are seeing things. And you think they will keep quiet. It's not normal.
Asuko, when you look at the body language of the leadership in this case, trying to handle this matter, do you think they are really ready to deal with this issue head on?
Veronica, it's going to be tough, but I think reasoning will eventually prevail, you know, for them to call off the strike because of, you know, the country, with the way I'm saying, because they've been meeting with the federal government, although the meeting was deadlocked, but I know reasoning will come into play, because if you look at it, the PASAN, which is the Parliamentary Staff Association of Nigeria, they have every right, you know, to call for the strike, because if they were sitting and you decided to increase their salary and allowances and you fail to pay, it is not, they wanted it and you gave them. From 2010 till date, you didn't even bother to even put it in the budget, in your own budget, in the National Assembly budget. Meanwhile, you are collecting your own allowances. The leadership of the National Assembly have been collecting allowances from 2010 till date. That is for 8 years. And what I've noticed in Nigeria is that it is only those at the lower level that are always suffering, just like ASU. It is NASU that is always suffering. ASU will shout and shout and shout. By the time NASU will now fall in, that is when everybody will now say, oh boy, the thing don't pass, don't be careful. You understand? Because those are the ones that will clean the toilets. They are the ones that will open the lecture rooms. They are the ones that will give you paper to do anything you want to do in the university. So these guys are the same, they are doing the same work. Just yesterday, you can see what they did. They just turned off the light and switch off the water supply, and everybody was shouting. Just that is the only thing they did. We don't even know the other things they will be planning to do.
How far do you think they can go?
Are they not the ones that have the key to the generator?
And they are, of course, I was promised with that.
You know, who carries the mace?
You know,
to the National
Assembly.
If it's a member of PASAN, what if he or she refuses
to do?
Will there be a legal?
You understand?
local standing for the president to come in without somebody to bring the message.
So this really is a threat to
It's
our
to tell
democracy,
you
so
that
to speak.
these people, what their threat is, there's a kind of clear and present danger. There has to be a decision, unless we don't want to read the budget, we don't want the president to come. But you know what? The budget affects the nation. And the more we postpone, there is a lot of commitment, both nationally and internationally. We have bills to pay. And if we don't have a working budget, then we are in trouble.
Yes.
Somebody has to do his
especially
job.
next year that we're already thinking about election and a new government, So this budget, we even want to even see the budget. Let's see if it's going to be lesser than what we are already, the one that has not been implemented.
Quickly hold the
to
thought. We have
fullest.
a caller on the line. Annie calling from Ikorodu. Go ahead with your contribution.
Good evening, and all of you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. I just want to let everyone of us understand what's really going on. This is the politics. You see, when they ask the president to sign the electoral bill, and he refuses to do that, to me, I believe that it's the payback from the National Assembly. So it's a matter of just everybody using the power now. And it's not good for the nation. So it's a matter of, if you can't do this, we have our own way of repaying.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you,
Veronica,
Annie, for
that
your
was what I was thinking before. I was trying to play the devil's advocate that, okay, the president doesn't want to sign the electoral, just like Annie said, and so the leadership of the National Assembly that is now being controlled by the opposition party, they will want a situation whereby they will also get the president somewhere.
But they are suffering as well. So how will they incite?
You don't. This is politics.
All right.
When once it comes to politics, politicians know how to go the full hog. They don't mind even using the train to remove anybody. You understand? So they might even instigate the person members against the federal government, the executive. You understand? Because this is now that is devil's advocate. I'm just thinking that way.
Two elephants are fighting.
But the thing is, it is the masses that will eventually suffer. Because if this is not settled, Nigerians will suffer. Even the person members too will suffer. Because their allowances is also included in the budget.
Of course.
So they also have to think about that.
I don't think they will want to be used
from what I'm hearing,
manner.
They have even divided the ranks in the union now. So some people are for, some people are against. So it means that there's something inside that we don't know, which I think eventually it will come out.
Why your final word?
I think they should just find a way around it, because the people they are aware of the fact that this is the time they can go on strike. They can easily get attention because of the fact that election is approaching, and it would be a bad thing for the government if there are so many strikes going on at the same time. I think that was why they ensured that NLC did